Hello, my mashed potatoes, and welcome. I have two fun segments for you today. Let's start by reviewing A&A's Warbot robot figurines. These are plastic novelties for birthday parties and such. But as you can see here on the Amazon page, it says highly detailed, and that is no lie. These are remarkably detailed for their price point, which is either 20 cents each or 30 cents each, depending on whether or not you get the pack of 20 or 50. When you compare that to these pre-painted droid minis by Hasbro, you can see there's quite a big difference in price. In addition to being well detailed, they also don't have much in the way of flash or mold lines to remove, so there's no obvious spot on the minis where the mold injection happened. The 4 different sculpts are really quite nice. 3 of them seem to be unarmed multi-purpose robots, and the 4th has arm-mounted weapons instead of hands. This one is clearly some kind of soldier or security robot. The distribution of those sculpts seems pretty random. In a pack of 20, I only got 2 of the one sculpt. If I had to describe the style, I'd say they are a mix of Imperial Droid and Battletech Light Mech. They're wonderfully generic, and I can see them blending seamlessly into a supers game, space opera, or even a post-apocalyptic setting. In 28mm scale, they stand about 5 feet tall, a little less than a head shorter than an average mini in that range. They come in an assortment of kid-friendly colors, so they probably won't be right for your tabletop right out of the bag. But a simple spray coat of primer makes a huge difference in the impression they give off. Of course, you'll probably want to give them a good scrubbing in hot water with dish detergent before you make any attempt to paint them. A little E6000 and a penny makes a great base for these guys. I also flocked them with a little bit of craft sand. Here they are in all black, and already they look quite good. I dry brushed a little silver on the limbs, and that's a fine place to stop. They really don't need anything more than that. But I also dry brushed a very dark blue onto their chassis, and picked out some details on them and their bases as well. Are they a good investment for your tabletop? Yes, if you're running a game that needs robots. I'm not sure you can find a more affordable pack of nicely detailed 28mm robots. This gets the Miniature Mashup seal of approval. The Falling Star ship by WizKids is an amazing model, but it's also $200 freaking dollars, and in a time where 10 million people just filed for unemployment, maybe not the most attainable thing for some of us. Of course, there are alternatives if you want to have your little fantasy men take a ride on a little ship. People have done wonders converting toy boats into tabletop miniatures. But I've had no luck finding any of the good ones like the Playmobil's Pirate Ship or the Mega Bloks Black Pearl. Instead, what I did find at the thrift store is the Little People's Camper set. Not even the whole set, just the little plastic green rowboat that comes with it. Luckily, I have some really cool viewers like Monica Jean Farris here who sent me a bag of toys she got from Goodwill. In it came a couple of these cannons. Now, I tried to find out what these cannons were, if they came from a board game or something, looking online, but I had no luck, so I can't really identify them. But they do kind of look like the back end of a ship, and if I put these two things together, I might just have something. These cannons fire, so the first thing I'm going to do is gut them of all their working parts. I don't need them, and I can use them for something else later. And this was one of the worst mistakes I've ever made on Miniature Mashup because, and I say mistakes, not really, it just was a bitch to get this cover off the bottom of these cannons. I took the screws out, and they still didn't want to come off. I came at it with a Dremel tool, they still didn't want to come off. Eventually I did get it off and get them out, but it was a chore. Once open, it turns out that each cannon is held in place by a screw, and I removed those screws as well. I want this whole project to be as modular as possible. Also, I think it'll be easier to paint the cannons separately, and the space in between the cannons will be easier to get to if the cannons aren't there in my way. It's kind of like the way I have to lift my stomach up if I want to wash anything below my belt line. I'm going to take my Dremel tool to these foot pegs, which held, I assume, some kind of colonial soldier or pirate. Although it would be amazing if it were something else, like a transvestite. I would definitely kickstart a game where transvestites shot cannonballs at each other. A series of cannons is called a battery, so I might as well refer to it that way. This battery has little wheels on the side, and they're going to make it awkward to try to fit on the ship. So I'm just going to take my Dremel tool, saw those off, and while I'm at it, use my Dremel tool to sort of even everything out. There's lots of little knobs here and there that need to go if I'm going to get a nice flush fit with the Fisher-Price rowboat. And yeah, it seems once those are off, we get a nice pairing of the two. They are Coincidentally, about the same size. It looks good. Now this little people rowboat does have some seats where those little mutants can put their tubical torsos, and I'm gonna try to rip it out. I can't really get a grip on it at first, so I need to cut myself a place where I can get a purchase with a pair of vice grips. Once I've got them, it's pretty easy to rip the two items apart, and we get to see the bottom. It may have been possible for me to build a deck across the seats, but I don't mind doing this extra step just so I have a little more control over what the finished product looks like. And trust me, when it comes to playing with vice clamps, you want to be the one that's in control. I have a sack full of these little plastic containers, and I don't use them for very much. So I'm going to break them up, shave them down, and glue them into place. I put the first one in with hot glue, and then it occurs to me pretty quickly that that will be the last one I'll be able to put in with hot glue because of the way the angle will go, and I'll soon run out of room to get this giant gun in there, so I do the next two with E6000. Once they're in place, it's time to get a blueprint of the deck. I'm going to start by tracing the bottom of the boat and going a little bit bigger because it is going to be a little bit bigger where the deck will be, and then I'll whittle that down until it's flush or close to it with the deck, and I have an idea of how much space I'll have to fill. Once we have our cardboard the right size, I'm going to trace popsicle sticks over it, and in a sense, this will become our floor plan for the deck. I'll just fill in the spaces I traced with popsicle sticks, alternating between a whole one and two broken halves. This will give it a more sort of built-to-scale appearance, and not just look like a series of perfect popsicle sticks. Of course, before I glue them down, I am going to go at them with my wood gouging tool, as I do with any project that's medieval and involving craft wood. A little E6000 around the back of the Fisher-Price fishing boat, and soon we'll attach our cannons, and our ship is taking shape in front of us. Now that we see how much room the cannons will take up, we can start laying down our deck planks. And it's just a series of laying down a strip of hot glue and a craft stick, hot glue, craft stick, and a craft stick, hot glue, craft stick, and a craft stick, hot glue, craft stick, and a craft stick, hot glue, craft stick. Mesmerizing, I know. Now remember that spot on the cannons where the transvestite's feet would go? We're going to cover that up with a couple of short planks as well. You could fill this in with putty and then try to texture it to match what's going on with the cannons, but that's a lot more work than I'm willing to do. And once the planks are in place, it looks fine. The plastic railing on this ship is very toy-like and artificial / modern looking, so we need to cover that up with some rustic looking wood as well. I just cut the appropriate lengths of craft wood, hit it with a gouging tool, and E6000 it down. I do this on the side of the railing also, where it's straight enough to take these planks. This cat figurehead is a leftover from my Thundercats castle, something I've used to make several projects on this channel before. It looks pretty cool on the front of this ship. I'm going to build a large upper level where characters can hang out. It's kind of a crow's nest, kind of a platform. I've seen this on a lot of other 28mm ships, and I like it. It's fun. This particular one is part of a railway car toy that I've removed the roof and walls from, and this is just the bottom part of the track. I'm going to come at it with my cutting tool and my Dremel tool and get all these sort of nubs off the bottom, and then I'm just going to glue it onto a couple of dowel pieces, some nice fat ones that are in scale, with our ship, and then I'm going to use a washer to anchor it into place. I'm not going to attach it to the ship because that'll make it difficult to store, and again, I'm going for modularity. The cannon has a little square opening where part of the moving works was. It looks kind of like a window, which is cool. We're going to take a little plastic cross-stitch grating, turn it at an angle, trace out the square, cut it out, and glue it here with a little E6000. When it's done, it'll look pretty nice. Now, the back of the Fisher-Price rowboat is unnaturally smooth, and it doesn't match the top of the ship. So we're going to have to fix that using some fat craft sticks and some plasticard. And I'm going to cut it to match the top as best I can. Of course, I'm going to gouge it out to make it look a little more rustic and try to get a match with the top. I'm making a hatch for the cargo hold, and I've got this weird piece of plastic. I can't tell you what it is. I got it at a thrift store in a big pile of plastic junk. But I'm just going to snip it down. Looks a bit like a hatch, glue it to some fat craft sticks, of course make those rustic looking, and paint the whole thing up. Our helm is just the steering wheel from a model car, and a couple of craft sticks. I'll take it outside and I'll prime it with a dull coat of gray. Once that's dried, it's back inside for a series of browns. Little dry brushing on the top to bring out the pattern of the wood. At the waterline, we do some black in order to simulate the tar that would be used to steel a ship like this. And here it is. I think it turned out wonderfully. As you can see, it can hold a lot of miniatures, especially considering how you can get 6 miniatures up on the upper deck. But it's not limited to just being a platform for battle. It can also go into battle itself with large sea creatures. Guys, as always, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the little bell so you can get notifications. If you're one of the few lucky people who still has a job, please consider donating to my GoFundMe campaign. The link for that is in the description below. We've also got a Facebook page and a Discord. It's a great place where you can see pictures of this project plus pictures of projects past. It's also a good place to just say, hey, what's up, and keep in touch with the channel and know what's going on. Guys, it's been fun as always. Thanks for watching Miniature Mashup. We'll see you next time.